there, and I am so excited to host this panel. This is a 3-part series. This is the first of 3 in the series, and we have some amazing panelists on this topic, which is going to be calm amidst chaos. And we're looking to unlock secrets to manage stress and find joy in everyday life. So just a few things about this panel for anyone who's tuning in or listening. For sure, we want this to be an engaging and collaborative conversation. So if you are live right now in the audience and a part of the conversation piques your interest and you want to ask a question or you want to add something to the conversation, absolutely drop that in the chat, and we'd love to bring that into the conversation with the panelists. This will be somewhat like a live podcast where I'll be talking and moderating a conversation between these 2 amazing professionals. And I'm just excited to capture what's going on for them and tap into their leadership for the audience. So let's start with a couple introductions. I'd love to, we'll start with you, Dr. Isabel Myring. I'd love to just, briefly talk about you, who you are as a professional, where you are, just a quick hello.
Sure. So, hi, everyone. I am Dr. Isabel Myring. I'm a doctor of acupuncture and herbal medicine, as well as a coach, a life coach. And I'm also in Bath, Texas, here with Ethan. And I practice here for, of course, acupuncture and herbs, and then in person and online for coaching.
Awesome. Thank you. And then we also have Chris Williams here. If you wouldn't mind giving us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. My name is Chris Williams. I'm the owner of CFT Fitness, a CrossFit gym, and also a strength and conditioning gym here in Tracy, California. Been a gym owner for almost 8 years. And I'm probably the living antithesis of living amongst chaos and keeping calm. So that's what I'm bringing to the table.
That's awesome. And then for anyone in the audience or anyone who ends up watching the recording, I'm Ethan Schindler. I'm the gym owner here in Bastrop, Texas. I also do, all types of coaching. And what I really love to do is help people to figure out how to optimize their health for whatever they love to do in their life, how to build community, and how to become fully actualized in their self, how to figure out what they're best at and how to live a life that they love. So I'm excited to host this conversation today. So I'm going to go ahead and kick the conversation off, and I wanted to ask each one of our panelists, when you hear the phrase "calm amidst the chaos," what comes to mind for you? What do you think about?
I think about life. When you first sent these topics and I read that one, I was like, oh yeah, I'm in. And this is what life is about. It's not about how few things you can have on your plate, right? It's about how can you manage the things that do come your way, whatever you choose, whether it's, intentional things or unintentional things. And I think that really mastering the calm and the chaos is honestly one of the keys to having the most success.
Yeah, that's awesome. What do you think, Chris?
I agree. I think when I saw that, I was like, I live it every day by choice or, by life just making me do it. So I realized like calm is one of those words. I think when people see that, they get the wrong impression that it means you're not allowed to have anxiety or fears or issues or get worked up. What I think it means is just keeping that temperament at a point where you're not getting too high, too low, and allowing life to kind of drag you too high and then crash you to the ground. So I wanted to come in. I thought that was a great example of what I've been through over the last 8-9 months. And, losing almost 100 pounds in the last 2 years, there's a lot of things that could easily derail that, but kind of keeping a steadfast mindset, regardless of what comes at you, is a big part of having that type of long-term success.
Yeah, that's a great segue into the follow-up question to that is, when you saw this topic and I asked if you wanted to join in, what was it that you felt was going on in your life or in your practice or anything like that you felt lends itself to your expertise to this conversation?
Doc, you want to go first?
Oh, sure. So I feel this has been, that phrase has really been a priority of mine for the past 2 years of just saying, how can I feel calm and even regulated amidst everything that's going on. So, sometimes it's not possible to take things off of our plate. So it's how can we have this mindset of, wow, I get to do these things. I'm really lucky to do these things. And kind of layering in this optimism of choosing to look at all of the beautiful things that are happening with what you have on your plate, which is an active effort. I think for a long time, I thought that optimism and people who just seem to have this like glow about them, they're just made like that. And that's just how they are. And maybe I just wasn't made like that, but that's not true. And any of us can have this mindset if we work really hard at it. And that has been the most important thing in my life the past 2 years, moving my business to a new city and starting all of these things over and beginning new projects and saying, okay, we can sit here and we can look at all of these things that are really stressful and maybe hard, or we can say, wow, I get to do these things because it's getting me to where I want to be, and what a gift that I can even be here in this situation. And that is the calm, that is the focus, and saying, wow, this is amazing. All of these things, even if it feels like a lot today, is getting me to where I want to be tomorrow. And that's what makes it worth it.
Yeah. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I think that's a great valid point that I think, almost to a certain degree, you're paying your dues, right? So these challenges are paying your dues for that next stretch of calm. We always have these calms in our life where things just kind of seem to go smoothly, things fall into the right places often, but that's usually right after a storm or right after a really rough period or some rocky steps along the way. And it can be months or years or, for some people, a decade before that calm comes again. But it's always worth it. And I think that's the thing that people forget in the midst of day-to-day life is, the challenges I'm having today, if I just see them head on, making it for a better tomorrow, I'm kind of getting this out of the way. And that's the way I approach things when I end up in the hospital in December with what I had no idea what it was. It turned out to be a nervous system issue called Guillain-Barré syndrome. And, you really don't know what happened. All of a sudden, you just can't do things. You can't walk. You can't feed yourself. You can't do anything because everything is just gone to hell. So, that's the stuff like that where you just kind of have to take it head on. Had I not been challenging myself for that few years leading up, losing weight, doing hard things on a regular basis, I'm not sure if mentally I would have been able to take that on with a pretty even keel mindset. I probably would have been a terrible patient, which would have just delayed them figuring out what it was for a much longer period of time, thus just making everything worse. So I think to a certain degree, that calm, that mental stability comes from this challenge isn't any different than things I do to myself in the gym or on a long ruck or a hike or anything else you could do to just build resolve. When that thing comes around the corner that you don't see coming and sucker punches you, as life loves to do, if you're prepared for it, you're going to be able to stay a lot calmer.
Yeah. When I hear you guys say that, it makes me really think about a few things. One, if you're the type of person who's trying to grow, if you're stretching yourself in any capacity, whether it be through your physical self or through your career or in your family or whatever, it comes with turbulence. It comes with rocky roads and some lows and some, as you mentioned, unexpected things. And so I don't think it's actually appropriate to think that you're always going to feel calm and you're always going to feel grounded. I think that you have to have the tools and the skills to deal with the roughness that comes with that growth. And I think that really came through in what you both said. And it makes me think about the book Good to Great, and when they talked about the Stockdale paradox. And the Stockdale paradox basically was saying when you're facing something hard, the people who do the best and the people who actually persevere, they're not the optimists. They're the ones who can at the same time harness the ability to look at the brutal facts of their situation, just go eye to eye with the difficulty and hold on to that undying hope that a positive outcome is coming. And I heard that really come through in what you both said, which brings me to my next question. There's the word stress, it's gotten tossed around in this conversation, and we think about stress all the time. What are your guys' thoughts on the role of stress in our lives?
Chris, do you want to start with this one?
Yeah, sure. Stress is just, it's there. I mean, if you have kids, you're going to have stress 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. As far as my parents have told me, they're in their 70s. They still have stress about me, and I'm 40 years old. So I don't think that ever ends. Stress is just something that comes with life. If you're breathing, you're probably stressing about something, and it's not your fault if you're not doing anything wrong. That's just the way we're built. I feel like to a certain degree, we just have these, it's just something is always going on that you're thinking about, and stress can be really minimal. It could just be like, man, did I leave a light on in the bathroom? That's still a stressful thing, whether even if it's just a really small thing or it's something big, like, I'm pretty sure I ran over the cat on the way out the door. Like, I don't know, so it's stuff like that. It could be really low, really high, but we're always stressing about something. I know that was a really random analogy, but
I hope you didn't.
I don't have an outdoor cat. It's somebody else's, so we're fine.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I agree. I think that stress is something that is always there. I think stress is sometimes spoken as tension too. It's something that's taking you that's moving you off of your regulated state, right? So it's getting outside of whatever that homeostasis is for you. So positive, negative, neutral, I mean, you have it everywhere. It's just something that needs to be looked at, right? And we'll never get away from that. So it's just, how can we have these tools to be regulated again, and to be able to process things in real time without having when I say negative reactions, having a reaction or a physical state that's going to end up hurting you. So something that's going to cause dis-ease, either emotionally, physically, spiritually, etc.
Yeah, I guess how I came to the life that I live now, and how I came to my perspectives, was really born in my experience as being a strength coach. And so when I think about stress, I think a lot about that world, exercise physiology and things like that. And so I think about stress in ways that it's as a good thing. Stress isn't, I don't see a negative connotation to it all the time, although it can. And you guys both said it beautifully and articulately. It's the stress is going to be there, and the stress is necessary. It's how you respond to the stress that really matters. Because let's just talk about a simple thing like doing squats, right? Your body actually breaks down and is stressed out by the weight and the number of repetitions and the exhaustion that comes along with that. But your body adapts and overcomes, and it becomes stronger through the recovery period of doing those squats. And I see that exactly like any other kind of stress that we have in life. You have a relationship issue, you have a financial issue, you're questioning your spirituality. There's so many different ways that you can be stressed. And I say, good. I say, this is a way for me to get knocked in the dirt a little bit and then learn some things so that I can be stronger and better moving forward. And so I'm curious, do you both kind of share a thought like about stress in that way, about it can be a good thing?
Yeah, I mean, what I hear you saying is essentially it's an expander. So it's an opportunity for growth, no matter if it's physical, mental. They're honestly so similar anyways. You really can't have one without the other. But in the same way that your muscles are going to get through that and expand, it's doing the same thing to your mind. So if we can get to a space where we're looking at stress, a stressful situation, a moment as an expander, like, what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? Is this an opportunity to test a different reaction that I have? Is this an opportunity for a better communication style? This is an opportunity to, change up my daily routine, my physical exercise, whatever that is. And then it all ends up being really positive, even when you have those emotions that are hard. And I think stress gets this rap, and emotions get this rap, like, oh my gosh, I'm sad, or I'm stressed out, or I'm angry, and this is all negative. No, it's an opportunity to use that all positively as expanders, as something to learn from. And with that lens, nothing that happens to you is ever really bad. It can just be hard, and hard doesn't mean bad.
I love that. Chris, I see you nodding your head. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that it was really nailed with the heart is not always a bad thing, right? I think people attribute hard to like, oh, negative, right? Got to avoid hard things. When in reality, we should be leaning into them, and to a great point about, stress as a growth thing. Growth comes from friction. So stress creates friction. Hard things create tons of friction. Friction, creates momentum. Momentum creates growth, right? So you have to have friction to grow, to move forward. And I think people try to avoid it to the point of stagnation or even falling backwards rather than, taking things head on, like you said, looking something dead in the eye and going, what do we need to do, right? What's it going to take to solve this problem? And for me, going back to the hospital thing, I had to look at it that way, right? Every day I was getting a little worse. But to your point, because it was a central nervous system issue, as the IgIV was a minute ago, was basically put good antibodies back in my body to fight the ones that had stuck around too long. I recovered fairly quickly, and the doctors attributed that to the fitness. They attributed it to doing heavy squats and things like that put stress on your nervous system, that put stress on your body as a whole, and taught my body how to adapt quickly and, recover quickly. So from not being able to walk at all to 4 days later being able to walk without assistance had a lot to do with all of that attack that I personally put on my nervous system and on my body, just for fitness and a little bit of ego, but mostly fitness.
I have a thought about that, but as I see some more people in the audience popping in, I want to just take a second to say thank you for being here. I would love for you to participate in the conversation. So if something is said from our experts in the panel and you want to ask a question or ask for more detail, please pop that in the chat and I will absolutely, actually they can see it now that I just learned that they can see the chat. So we would love to bring that into the conversation. And for those who this is getting recorded for as well. So then that kind of what both of you guys are saying something similar in that stress can be a good thing and it's a growing opportunity. And what really determines whether it is going to end up being a positive or a negative for you is how you confront it. And so I'm curious to hear, this is probably maybe the most meatiest and the most robust part of the conversation is, let's talk some tools, because like Dr. Isabel said, being sad is appropriate at an appropriate time. Being a little anxious is appropriate at the right time. And I'm of the belief that you should have the ability to have all of those feelings, all of those emotions, to be able to look them in the eye. And then the problem is that we get stuck somewhere too long, because also being happy at inappropriate times is not a positive thing either, right? You want to have access to all of it. So I would love to hear from our experts, some, I'll call them coping mechanisms or some practices that you all are aware of that people can start to incorporate into their lives to help them to deal with, the word in this is chaos, right? Or it might be busyness, or it might be hard times. We've thrown those words around. So I'd love to start tossing around some tools or mechanisms that you all are aware of.
Yeah. So first of all, Ethan, I think it's an important point. I like how you said that about the emotions. There's a difference between looking at the positives or having hope and gaslighting yourself out of an emotion.
Yes.
And we can't bypass these things. We can't spiritually bypass and say, oh, wait, anger, fear, guilt, oh, that's too hard, so we're just gonna stuff it down and we're just gonna be happy. That's not gonna work over time, and it's gonna cause more dis-ease in the body. What we're wanting to get to is a space where we can look at these emotions and give them space and say, okay, so here's what needs to be processed, and I'm gonna process this, and on the other side, still have this hope and still go towards these goals. We need to feel all of these things in order to actually go to the next level, in order to actually grow. Otherwise, they're just going to come back later to bite you in the butt, and it's not going to be very fun. So one of the tools that I like is to do a body scan and say, okay, where is this tension in my body? What's going on? And ask it, what's the emotion here? Okay, I feel anxious. Okay, is this because of what's going on? Was there something I needed to do? Should I have set a different boundary? Should I have spoken? And just literally tuning into your body and asking, what did I miss? Or what do I need to do from here? A great way to get in touch with that is by breathing, taking deep breaths. Alternate nostril breathing is one of my favorite things to do, just to snap out of whatever mental kind of racing you're in, especially if you've just come out of a situation where something stressful happened, because then you're connecting the mental with the physical, and you're like, okay, where are we on the same page? What's going on? So I would say breath work and the body scan, top two. And the third one I would say is just the practice of being present, which of course in a chaotic moment or in a crisis, that's going to be when you're most tested with that. But when you're present, you can actually deal with things as they come. If we're living in the past, and thinking about our actions over and over again, or if we're projecting into the future, we can never have this peace. The peace comes in the moment and in presence, working with your body and your mind, not in imagining, in the future, or being anxious about what may or may not happen, or in the past and thinking, oh my God, what should I have done? What's going on? It's just being here now. So of course, breathwork and body scans are going to help you to have this presence, but those are my top skills in the moment.
Yeah, I would love to get real tactical with you on that. So let's just start. You started with body scan.
Yeah.
Some people may not, or I might have a different version of this in my mind from what you're talking about. How could you just give us a few ideas of how I would do a body scan, and something for the audience?
Yeah, so kind of a beginner version of body scan is, once you can remove yourself from the situation and you're alone, you have a minute, I would just sit down, close your eyes, take 2 or 3 deep breaths, and then all I want you to do is just literally feel into your body and notice anywhere that doesn't feel relaxed or calm, anywhere that there's tension. So maybe if you just left a situation that you felt really anxious in, once you remove yourself, take a few breaths and you'll notice a lot of tension over your heart or in your chest. Okay, this is where there's some tightness. What's going on? And maybe you don't get an answer. And if you're new, you might not. This is kind of a skill that you work up. But just sending your breath there, that simple. Just literally breathing and visualizing you're sending your breath to the areas where there is tension. The same you would in a yoga class with a tight muscle. Oh, my hamstring has tension. Okay, well, I'm just going to take some breaths and focus on that area while I'm stretching. And you can do this throughout your whole body. Maybe when you get nervous, your stomach hurts. That's very common, and it makes sense with Chinese medicine or organ diagnosis too. Or you got really afraid, and so your low back is really hurting. Just sending your breath there and taking a note, this is where my body is holding on to whatever emotion. And if you're already well equipped and knowing where the body stores emotions, awesome. Then you'll kind of have a way to talk yourself through that. And if not, Google's a great place to learn, where do you hold emotions in your body energetically? And then of course, like working with a practitioner to learn the things and then have the tools and take them. But simply just taking deep breaths and breathing into the areas of tension is a great place to start with a body scan.
Okay, and so then the breath work practice that you talked about, so it sounds like there's some breath work in part of the body scan. Is the breath work practice tactically different? Is it differentiated from what you just talked about?
The one I brought up was alternate nostril breathing, and it is different. So that one, you're welcome to visualize sending the breath to your body during that if you want to. I like to use this one if I'm just walking out of a situation, or my mind is really racing and I'm anxious or nervous going into something. So all you do, it's super simple, is you're going to take your first 2 fingers, you'll block a nostril, you'll inhale, switch nostrils, exhale. Inhale back through that nostril, switching for exhale. So you switch on the exhale. You take this one really slow. This is not something that you want to speed up. And what you're doing here is you're connecting the left and right hemispheres of your brain. It's going to pull you out of whatever stress pattern you're currently in. This is great to do even on days when you feel really good, even when there's not stress, because you're building those reps in your brain and in your nerves to, when you breathe, snap out of whatever's going on and come back to presence. The whole point is to come back into your body instead of being all in your head because there's so much going on.
And that's perfect, because I was going to ask you next about, you said being present is the third tool or tactics that you recommend for people. So is there a method that you encourage people to do for that?
Yeah, I would say the easiest thing I've done to kind of start with this is to just notice the things in the room. So if you're struggling with being in your body and being where you are now, just look around and notice. Oh, okay, there's a canopy there. Oh my gosh, those curtains are really pretty. Oh my gosh, the wall is blue. That's awesome. Like physically looking at these things and then starting to notice kind of where you are in the room energetically. So as you kind of tune into where your body is, you can feel, oh, okay, I can feel where all the walls are in comparison to me and the floor and the ceiling. And other humans, this is easier because they have a little bit stronger energy than the walls. And then before you know it, you're like, okay, so physically I'm here, I've got it. And then your mind is going to follow that thought pattern and bring you here.
I love that. As someone who has tried to practice meditation I've been, I guess, for about 10 years now. And I really struggled with it in the beginning because there was, it's just kind of like, you hear different ways, sit there in silence, focus on your breathing. And I have a super active mind. And it was really hard. I mean, next thing I knew, I was thinking about my to-do list, and I was thinking about this conversation I had with somebody and everything else. And so I'll throw in one way that I get present, and I actually, similar to you, it's by using your senses. So you were talking about what I can see, and you can certainly do what can I smell and what can I hear and all these other ones. But I actually started to see if I could use my senses wrong, like in the moment. So I would see a color and I would start to think, what does that color sound like? Or what does that color smell like? And that really was able to trick my mind I couldn't really think about anything else other than being here and now and trying to figure this out. Like I would be like, oh, I can feel my toes in my shoes. I wonder what that sounds like. And I couldn't be anywhere but here. So that's just a little trick that to add to the being present thing.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, Chris, I'd love to hear from you from a practice standpoint, from some tools that you've got in your tool belt. What are some ways that you recommend that people become calm in the chaos?
The gym is always, especially over the last few years, the gym or any type of strenuous physical activity. Last week, right around Memorial Day, I was up in the mountains and I decided to do a run on a hiking trail, and I was running and it was just me. So I had all the time in the world to think. And I'm thinking about, like you said, thinking about all these things that have gone on recently and all this chaos that's happening in my life with managers leaving, other managers like vying for the position that's open, lots of hard conversations, just a ton of stuff going on all at once. And I realized as I'm running and I am getting into that like Fran level, right? Real difficult, straight uphill. And all these emotions are coming up from these hard conversations, anxieties, fear, depression, doubt, like everything you can think of, good and bad, right? But because I'm working so hard at the same moment, I'm feeling those emotions come up and kind of just get expelled outward. Like they're just kind of getting brought up and sent on out because I'm working through these things. And, I know people probably don't think when you're at that heightened level that you're thinking clearly. To me, it's probably the clearest I think ever is when I'm working out because the endorphins are firing, things are just kind of all going in the right direction. And I realized I worked through just about every single one of those things that could have lingered for a really long time in the back of my head and just caused unnecessary stress. Had I not tried to just focus on thinking through them, feeling the emotions and allowing that hard effort to kind of help me just extinguish them. And at the same time, having that clear focus in mind allowed me to mentally work through, did I make a mistake? Where could I have done a little better? What could I have done differently? Right. Or did I just do it right on? And I can let that go with confidence. I did it right. And I can't really think of a scenario where it could have gone better. So I think sometimes we just have to, collect ourselves and we have to audit experiences, conversations, things like that. And sometimes you can do it in the gym. Sometimes you can write it down. Sometimes it helps you to just write, sit down at the computer, just write everything I'm thinking. And then you get into kind of almost like a writer's flow, and things just kind of start pouring out. And that's really cathartic for me as well. But I think ultimately, breathing, I never really took into consideration until I started running. And, then breathing became a really important part of everything I do. Started doing more yoga stuff too, because I'm very inflexible, painful. So breathing became really important there too. So, I think that's really big too, just the breathing stuff. And I mean, if you can combine the two, working hard or writing and breathing, I think you'd probably find, especially for men, you bottle everything up. So, give yourself 2 hours, because you're probably going to have a really long writing session, and just get out as much as you can, trying to control your breathing and expel as much of that emotion as you can, because it's just sitting in there lingering.
Yeah, that actually brings up a part of the conversation that I was hoping to talk about, because this is something that I try to lead anyone that I'm coaching about. Is lifestyle is a big thing, right? We hear about this in the medical arena, where your lifestyle majorly impacts your health conditions and things like that. But also, a lot of your outcomes, what you do as habits, kind of determines what kind of outcomes you're going to get. And so I'm always talking to people about, well, it's fine to have some tips and tricks and some tools in your tool belt for when things get really bad as a response to those things. But there's also a level of maintenance that you can do as a practice regularly that kind of keeps your life at maybe a simmer. If you have a busy, chaotic, stressful life, you can probably do things on a regular basis that just kind of keeps everything at bay. And you both kind of alluded to that in that last part. And so I'd love to kind of hear a little bit about your thoughts on what are some things before it gets chaotic, before you're completely whacked out on stress, that people can kind of do as a habit regularly.
Yeah, I mean, first of all of I think the breath work and the movement we're talking about, make those a part of your regular routine. Don't just go to them when you're stressed out, but make that a lifestyle for yourself. Maybe when you're stressed out, you work out twice as hard, or you breath work for 30 minutes instead of 15, or whatever. But making sure they're a staple of your lifestyle before you get to a point is a really great space to be. But beyond that, I think a lot of it is mindset. And what I see a lot with, my clients, is a lot of us do tend to have these really busy lives, and some of us have, maybe more barriers than others. And when I say that, maybe you're a single parent, 3 kids, you're taking care of your elderly mom, like you truly have a lot of things on your plate and a lot of people who are depending on you. So that's going to come down to the mindset of this. And you can look at your list of things to do and say, I have to go to the store. I have to go take this car in. I have to take my kids to school. I have to. And notice how that feels in your body when you're just, I have to. What if we change that to, oh, I get to do this. I get to go to the store. I get to go and take my kids to this ballet recital. I get to do this. Like, what an honor. And then if you want to take a step further, I'm so grateful to do this, or I'm so blessed to get to do this. And notice how it changes the feeling of your list in your body. You're not changing the amount of things you have to do, but you're saying, I get to do this, or what an honor. I'm so blessed for this. Because truly, I think the best perspective on things sometimes comes from when you weren't able to have it. And like Chris has already alluded to, during his illness, what was happening. And I have a history of not being able to use my right leg. And when you go through those experiences, you never forget what it feels like to not be able to do it. So walking is never taken for granted again, But a lot of us can get to a place of this gratitude without having to go through something, so extreme, which is really cool. So practice those things and practice that gratitude. And between gratitude, breath work, and movement already integrated in your daily practice, I think you might be pleasantly surprised how much can be added to your plate. And you'll be like, no, I got this. I have these tools.
Yeah, I love that. Chris, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think like was said, I think fitness is a huge component on a daily basis, even if it's just 30 minutes of walking. Like that alone time to process thoughts, feelings, happenings of the day, or things you're preparing for, a lot of times before I go into stuff like this, where I have a really big meeting or a really important talk, I'll go for a walk or I'll work out beforehand. And it gives me the opportunity to prepare for scenarios and different things that could happen in these like situations that maybe are stressing me out in advance, or maybe stress me out because I don't know if it went as well as I thought. Getting that alone time to just like process things was really, really vital for me over the last few years. I think, yeah, I think that's the big one for me. It's vital. The other thing I do is I talk to a coach once a week. So I have someone I can talk to once a week that can look at things from a very neutral standpoint, outside looking in, and give a much like more fishbowl view of what's going on and give me real solid input on, am I overthinking this? Am I underthinking it? Am I happy, like Dawson mentioned, if I'm happy in a time where I'm not supposed to be, or if I'm brushing something off that I should give more attention to, that could come back to bite me later because I'm not viewing it from as important standpoint as it should be. Maybe it was a conversation with my wife where she said something and I took it as nothing, and he said, "Oh, that's not a nothing. You do not let that simmer, or that's a bigger problem than you think." There's a lot of different things like that that an outside perspective could offer.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's, is there an echo?
There's been a little one, but it's okay.
A little one. Okay, sorry. It just got worse on my end. Um, well, first of all, I want to share something from the chat. Donna Jean says, I get to has been a game changer for her. So wanted to share that with you, panelists.
Love that.
I tend to have a really, maybe I'm adding more tasks to my list than I need to, but I have a really heavy practice daily, every single morning that I do that keeps me grounded, focused, and, it helps me to handle anything that's coming my way. And so it starts with things that you guys already mentioned, but really before anything comes at me. So, every morning I get up, I journal, I meditate, I have some things that I've written on a document that I believe are who I am, why I'm here, and what I'm supposed to be doing. And I look at that as a reminder of like, okay, this is what's important. This is what I'm saying is the most important things to me. And then anything else that's going on, I can kind of let go of. And then I always try to do something for learning and growth. So whether that's reading a book or taking maybe I'm in an online course of some sort, I'm studying for a certification, whatever, just something that helps me to be expansive in my mindset, helps me to be a little better. And also daily movement is another way that keeps me kind of more durable and ready for whatever may come my way. So next question coming up, because you both have brought this up in different capacities and what you've talked about, my perspective is that as humans, we have a really hard time being present, which you both already mentioned being very important, because we tend to be in one of two other places, living in the past or living in the future, trying to ruminate and think about something that has already gone on, or trying to predict a future problem, a future conversation, or something that is upcoming, or a looming financial issue or something like that. And I'm curious if you have thoughts about how people might deal with living too much in the past or living too much in the future.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on this.
Yeah. That was a deep one.
It's a really deep one. This is good. I love it. So with people who are living a lot in the past, what I found with myself and with my client, that usually bottles down to something we're holding on to, right? So there's guilt, there's shame, there is a lack of forgiveness for self, which is then extended to others. I mean, there's something there for us to look at. If you keep thinking about something, an event, a memory, there's still something there for you. Let me go a step further. If you keep thinking about something and there's a charge on it, positive, negative, anything that's not neutral, there's something there for you to look at. So you're not crazy if you keep thinking about an event. If you're like, why 2 years ago am I still thinking about this weird party I was at where I did X, Y, and Z, whatever. It's because your body's like, no, there's something here to still learn from, and you're not getting it. So either processing it with someone if you need like a professional, or a journaling practice, any of these tools are great, but there's something in the past that we still need to look at. A lot of people, I think we have this lens of perfectionism, or there's some pattern that still we have the opportunity to look at and break. So we keep looking at things from the past because we aren't able to let go yet of an action that we had. So these are all really opportunities for you to work through. Now, if we're living in the future, that is like anxiety to a definition, right? Like, we're living somewhere where we're not supposed to be. And the issue with that is, if you're constantly projecting into the future and you're thinking about what you don't want to happen, you are still thinking about what you don't want to happen. You are putting energy into exactly what you don't want. So then when we create that, it's like, oh my gosh, I knew it the whole time. Sure. And also, have you been thinking about what you didn't want for like a year, and then you created it and now you're surprised? You are that powerful. Like, of course that we just created this. So it's such a disservice to ourselves to live in one of these places, because when we do that, we're missing things in the present. We're not hearing the birds chirp, or we're not seeing like our baby learn this amazing thing, or listening to what like our lover is saying and how sweet it is, because we're not even there. Like, we're completely missing things. So I don't say that as a way to then feel guilty about not being present. I say that as something that can be encouraging, and to think, wow, if I take a second and really work on being present and work on and hold space for these emotions coming up, I can get to a place where I can be present and romanticize my life and be able to take in everything that's coming, instead of constantly either projecting what we don't want and then creating it, or not be able to let go of what we didn't want that's already happened.
I love that. Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, it brings up a thought, a quote that I recently was talking to someone about, and it hit me pretty hard, which is, you become what you repeatedly do. And I think that goes to your thinking too. So if you're constantly thinking about negative things in your life that you haven't gained closure on, and you're putting yourself down or looking at yourself in a negative light, you're just going to become more of that. You're going to outwardly express that more often. You're going to treat people differently. You're going to basically be a reflection of that in everything you do. But if you're focused on the right things, positive things, if you're focused on gaining closure and growing and taking things head on and leaning into situations, I think that's obviously, it's going to open new doors, right? And it's the other quote that we got in the same conversation was, old habits won't open new doors. So, like, if old things you're still leaning on or doing or thinking about are holding you back from opening a door to something new, that it could be that, they say you're always one thought or one decision or one person away from that next breakthrough. Those doors are going to stay closed until you have gotten closure on these things in your past, and you're focused on doing things consistently that are going to open the doors to the future. So you can't really sit in the future and you can't sit in the past, but you just have to focus on the things you're doing consistently today in the present. Are they pushing you towards that door, that new door, or are they just keeping you hanging out from way back when?
Yeah, that's strong, because that we create parts of our identity based on our past experiences. And sometimes we hold on to, that part of our identity got us through a hard time, or we survived our childhood in certain ways. However, those won't continue to serve us if we keep acting like, the 9-year-old child that picked up that identity and held on to it for too long. We're essentially being a 9-year-old. And so I think what you both have said is really strong, in that, you've got to learn how to let some things go. You have to have open your eyes, open your mind to different ways of being, if you want new opportunities, and to have a more fully expressed form of your potential and who you are. Which kind of brings me to the next question. we know that people have all different types of reactions and responses and habits. And when we talk about habit, we three who are on this panel right now coach people in, habits in a lot of ways, but not all habits are serving us in good ways. So I wanted to talk about how people might know when there is, when a habit or practice is healthy versus something that might be unhealthy for them or unhelpful for them.
Grace, do you want with that?
Sure. For habits, for me, it was, I have an example. It's not necessarily a habit, but it's something that I think was restricting me from growth, especially with weight loss, right? I've lost all this weight in the last few years. I was a diehard black everything, black shirts, right? I was a big guy, 350 pounds. It was slimming. But then as you lose all this weight and you start getting comfortable, I was still in all black. That was my brand. That was my look. And I realized that's an old habit. I'm kind of holding on to something that doesn't necessarily serve me anymore. And I switched to navy blue and slate. Those are colors that I wear more often. And what I realized is it's just changed the mindset, right? Like it's not a habit necessarily, but it's something that was an old part of me that I held on to, even though I had substantially changed who I am, my behaviors, my lifestyle. I wasn't outwardly projecting it in my dress code the way I should have. And making that slight change has had a massive impact on the way I view myself, comments other people have made. And, it's really driving me forward to that next step where I kept hitting this wall weight wise and then gaining some weight, hitting the wall. Now, granted, some of that was medical and other things, but I do believe holding on to habits or holding on to beliefs or holding on to even the way you dress, it's anchoring you to a past, and it's not prepping you for the future.
I love that. What do you think, Isabel?
So are your habits serving you? Yeah, that's our question.
Yeah, how do I know if this habit is healthy or unhealthy or helpful or unhelpful?
Well, I would say, are you getting the results you want? Do you have what you want? Are you creating something that you are really proud of? And if the answer is no, then taking a look at these habits, how's your feedback been from the people around you? Have you asked them, your husband, wife, partner, friends, coworker, something, is what you're doing creating the space that you want to be in? And if the answer to that is no, then it gives you the opportunity to look more specifically at what you're doing and where you could maybe make some changes or finesse a few things and get some habits that are getting you on the track to what you do want to create.
Okay, I love that. I love that thing about outcomes because, again, borrowing from my background as a strength coach, you can kind of study. I have a goal. I set a hypothesis. If I'm gonna, if I do these things, I think I'll get these outcomes. And if you're not really ever measuring the outcomes and then looking back on your process and trying to tweak and adapt what you've been doing, then you're never really going to know what works for you and what doesn't, because not everything works for everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. I am curious about, you both kind of talked about it, but I would like to really bring it to the forefront. The role of gratitude and positive thinking in calm amidst the chaos. Gratitude and positive thinking.
Yeah. So I have a really good example of this, if that's okay.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so I had this friend, and we both moved around the same time, new house, moved businesses, a lot of things that are just, a lot of work, a lot of steps, a lot of details. And in that process, I was so excited to just be starting this new chapter, and to move into a new home and to get all these things done. And a lot of things went wrong, right? Like I didn't have internet for 6 weeks, which not a big deal. It's just kind of an annoyance, right? Not a big deal. It didn't really affect my life. Things weren't hooked up. Things just happen in those processes. You have to call the water company. They don't know what's happening. Whatever. I didn't spend time talking about those things to my friends because it just didn't matter. It just every day you're just dealing with it. Things are coming up, you're moving on, and you're focusing on the good things, which is like, wow, I have a new house, I have a new place for my business. This is so exciting. I'm so grateful and I'm so proud to be here. Flip side, friend, similar situation. All I'm hearing about are the negatives. This is wrong. That is wrong. This part of the house is not working. Everything is terrible. This person didn't help me with my move. This, like, just you name it, like, that's what we were saying. And I listened, for a few weeks and I held space and I did the things. And there came a point where I said, you know what? I love you and I cannot listen to this negativity for one more minute. I want you to understand that we have both made these big transitions. I could sit here and tell you the 12 things that went wrong today, but I'm not going to do that because it just doesn't matter. They're just small things. What I want to tell you about is what I'm creating and all of these really cool opportunities that are coming from these actions. And unless that's what we're talking about, I just can't hear this anymore. It's been too long. You actually have so many beautiful, wonderful things that are working out for you, and you're missing all of it because you're so focused on these little things that are going wrong. And this ended up being a really powerful conversation that we were both grateful for. And obviously, we had a lot of rapport in order for me to say that. And she's like, wow, you know what? You're right. Like, thank you for telling me that because I didn't notice where I was. And yeah, you're right. In the midst of this, I had 18 things go right and I didn't talk about any of them. So it's looking at these situations and saying, who do you want to be on the other side of this? Do you want to be someone who every little thing is like a tally mark, on the negative track and you're just going to spend your time complaining? Or do you want to say, you know what, here's what happened, I handled it, and here's what I'm excited about? And it changes the game. It's two very similar situations, but look at how everyone is responding and look at whose nervous system is more cared for, right? And more nourished, and who has energy at the end of the day to keep going and to have conversations with friends and to do whatever it is, and who is just taxed at the end of the day because all of the energy went to every single thing that was negative and wrong.
Yeah. No, I think that's a beautiful example of how that might manifest in all of our lives. What are your thoughts, Chris, on a gratitude and a positive mindset?
I think it's an anchor to the truly successful and happy people in life. Gratitude's an anchor for them. Like, no matter how bad it gets, no matter how good it gets, gratitude is something that anchors their daily life. They're grateful for just getting up. I'm grateful for being able to walk. I'm grateful for my whole body not tingling, things like that happen when I had GBS. I'm grateful for opportunities to pick my son up and do stuff with him and be active. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, days get rough, things get hard. Just finding things you can be grateful for. You could call it bright spots. You got to find those things on an everyday basis to remind yourself, no matter how bad it is, it ain't that bad. And it kind of goes to that thing of, you're going to, which monster are you going to feed? The positive one or the negative one, right? If you're constantly thinking negative thoughts or speaking negatively, you're just feeding that monster, and eventually that monster is going to take over your behavior, your patterns, your lifestyle, your actions, cloud your judgment. If you're feeding the positive one, your positivity is going to be the overwhelming part of who you are. Gratitude is going to be overwhelming. So you just have to really audit, what am I saying to myself? What am I saying out loud? In conversations, am I self-deprecating myself? Am I doing things that like that? Like, if you're trying to lose weight and you're joking about your weight, you're probably, as much as it's a joke, you're probably actually feeding the negative monster every single time you say something. So you just have to really audit those things and be honest with yourself about what's the intention with my words or my actions or my behaviors versus what's the outcome. Right? Because intention and outcome sometimes are different. You may think you're talking positively, but if you actually audit what you said, what you probably registered in your brain probably wasn't as positive as you think. If it's not straight up gratitude or like, this is a great day, like, that's pretty straightforward. But there's a lot of times where you can spin what you think is a positive statement as something negative. If you've been living in a negative mindset for a long time. So it's a real hard thing to change.
Yeah, you both said some really powerful things. And I think for me, the highlights of combining what you both said is, one, where your attention goes, grows. right? So if your attention is on the negative aspects of your life or whatever else, that's going to grow. And if your attention is on the more positive things or what is going well, that part of the abundance is going to grow as well. Also, we sell ourselves short on how powerful we are, and Isabel spoke to this, and you both have said it in different ways, but what you speak, you have to be really careful about what you speak into the world and what you talk about, how you talk about yourself, to yourself and to others, how you talk about others and all these other things, because someone said it to me, they call it spelling for a reason. Like, you speak spells into the world. What you say tends to manifest. And so you have to be really careful about those things. And when we're talking about a chaotic life, is really going back to how much you do have control over. I guess that's why I'm kind of bringing this together, is because, yes, my life is crazy. My life is wild. If you look at all the things that I have going on in my life, it would look crazy on paper, but I don't feel crazy that often, because I about how I speak about what's going on in my life. And you have to be, really staying on top of your maintenance and all of those things. So, okay, so this is a little bit of a diversion, but this is on my question list, so I wanted to bring this up. Nowadays, in especially Western society and with modern medicine and all of these things, there's a lot of pharmaceuticals, medications, and things like that help people to deal with the chaos, to bring maybe some sort of calm through a pharmaceutical intervention. And I'm curious on what your guys' thoughts are about those types of interventions.
Yeah, I think there is a time and a place for these interventions. I think that you have control over a lot of these times and places. I think it is a really powerful tool for a lot of people. And I think that a lot of people decide it is what they need to do, and then that's where your intention goes. And I think there's nothing wrong with any of these approaches. And of course, I work with clients on this almost daily, and there's no judgment or negative stigma for, having to take or choosing to take a prescription for anxiety, depression. I mean, ADD, ADHD, you name it. I also have seen amazing healing come from just psycho-emotional and somatic work, and people who even are getting off of these medications after 10, 20, 30 years. I mean, not saying that it can't be challenging sometimes, of course it can, but I am saying that for these clients, it's so been worth it. And I think that society does a really poor job of preparing, especially our children, mentally, and teaching them about emotions. And I wish that our school system did a really good job, of teaching, hey, here's what to do when we feel like this. And, here's some outlets for all of these different emotions and feelings, and making it so people don't feel so alone, or like their symptoms are, out of nowhere, which is one of the things I love about Eastern medicine, is it's saying, Western medicine might say none of these symptoms have anything in common, like they're not related, where Eastern medicine is like, no, this all makes sense. Of course, that's how you're feeling. Of course, what your mind is doing and what your gut's doing are connected. Of course, you have anger and frustration, your liver's upset. Yes, like that's where these things manifest. So I think that there could be a much better job of education around these things in our society, and it's really, really failed us, which has led to a lot of us thinking that the only option is then a medication, where you actually have so many options, and whatever you choose, no judgment. I just would empower you to try all of those options.
I love that. Chris, do you have any thoughts or any experience with that?
So I'm not a doctor, so I can't tell you whether or not you should take those type of medicines or not. But what I can tell you from experience is I do believe there is a lot of correlation between your diet, your commitment to fitness and physical movement, and whether or not you truly need any type of intervention like a antidepressive medicine. Personally, I haven't needed anything in 2 years. Doesn't mean there aren't really shitty days that make me want to go back on something like that. But with the proper help, with the right people to call, with exercise and diet, and just understanding that this too shall pass, you can get through most of it without any type of help. But I think, again, it kind of goes back to that thing where I think too many people are devoid of doing hard things. So the medicine is just a really easy way to just kind of throw a towel over it. And it's just, we'll look at it another day. But as long as there's a towel over it, it's, out of sight, out of mind. So for me, I think, yeah, definitely. It's going to take time. I know people that have gotten off and it's taken years, right? It just depends on how much you're taking and how dependent you are on it. And, how much growth you need to do as a person too, that hasn't been done. So yeah, I totally commend people that do it and use it wisely and use it correctly and appropriately because they need it. I totally commend people that have gotten off it or never used it and have avoided it their whole lives. But I think, everybody's in different places. I think you'll know when it's time if you're truly challenging yourself and getting uncomfortable. You're going to know when it's like, okay, yeah, we can kind of call it quits on this.
Awesome. Yeah, I think I share all sides of the conversation. I'm an advocate for people taking care of themselves and doing what they need to do to take care of themselves. So there's maybe a time and place, and be open to other things. Don't kind of like a big theme in my life is don't get stuck. Try, do what you got to do to get through a moment, but try not to live too long in one way of being or another. Just try to open yourself to all of it, and then new possibilities and new types of interventions might be revealed to you through that. So okay, so I'd love to kind of open it up a little bit. One, I've seen people popping in and out of the audience. So just a quick reminder, if you have questions for our panelists, I'd love to for you to throw those in the chat so that we can chew on those as a group. And but I'll also open this up to the panelists. Were there things that you were hoping to talk about in this conversation that we didn't, or something about your work that you might want to share with the audience?
Yeah. So I came across this quote this week that I thought was so applicable to this panel. And it's from a Chinese proverb, of course. It's Chinese medicine. And it says, tension is who you think you should be, and relaxation is who you are. And I read that a few times and kind of shelled into that and thought about the most recent times where I felt the most amount of tension in my own body. And that was so true. It was when I was thinking, I need to do all of this in order to be that, or I have to do this, or in order to do this, this must get done. And it has that more frantic energy, and it just causes tension, which stress, right? They're pretty much the same. But if you just relax into what you're doing and who you are, I mean, that is incredible. That literally takes away so much of that tension. Even if you're just saying, yeah, I have this goal of losing X amount of weight, or I have this goal of making X amount of money, but relaxing into that goal and saying, here's what I did today. I did all my steps. That's all I can do. Now I'm going to log off and spend time with my family, or I'm going to log off and go outside, instead of that energy of, oh my God, I got all the things done today, but here's how much else that needs done. Thinking that you should do more. All that's doing is feeding that little like stress monster. And I thought that proverb said it so eloquently, and I really loved it.
I love that you say that. I do a lot of, we call them no sweat intros here at the gym. They're consultations before they get started. And I ask a lot of questions, and they're about people. And because I try to give them recommendations on if they sign up at the gym or not, doesn't matter to me. I just want them to be well and to be out there living their best lives. And I always ask about stress. And what you said just now kind of reminded me of something that I say to people is that, your stress management, I'll keep using the word chaos because that's what we titled this is, how you deal with the chaos does not always have to be heavy lifting. I always say, find 2 to 3 things that you love to do that are just for you, that you feel peaceful when you do them, you feel grounded and centered, and you feel better after doing that. And that opens up a menu of activities that is just endless. If you like riding horses, ride horses. If you have never painted in your life, but you love to, you always feel better when you're painting, or a color, maybe it's a coloring book. When I color with my daughter, it's one of the most relaxing, like void of stress possible things ever. And I'm no artist. If you like working on cars and you feel relaxed and peaceful when you're working on an engine or something, yard work, playing a musical instrument, of course we've tossed around like meditation and things like that, walking in nature. I mean, I could go on and on and on. All of these things, and I think we all should know at the drop of a hat, if I asked you 2 to 3 of those things that kind of bring that kind of peace and calm into your life, and then do them regularly. It's not good enough to just know it's there, but let this be a part of your lifestyle and who you are and how you spend your time. And you're probably not going to feel that chaotic. 1, you're taking time away from the chaos, and 2, you have a tool, an intervention that works for you.
Yeah, that's really good. I love that.
Chris, was there anything that you hoped that we would talk about, or were some talking points that you wanted to make sure that we worked into the conversation?
No, I think we nailed it, man. I think, boundaries is so crucial. Having boundaries of when the phone goes down and it's family time, having boundaries in the morning. If you don't have boundaries because the kids are up at the same time as you are, because your body clocks or alarms are at the same time, consider getting up an hour earlier to give yourself time before the chaos begins. That grounding period, or just opportunity to do some me stuff, like you said, for me, one of the me things is walking. So getting up early and being able to walk for 30, 45 minutes with an audiobook in allows me to just get my brain ramped up, grab my coffee, have 10 minutes of time with just coffee and silence before my son's awake. It makes the whole day easier to handle, because I've got brain work done, I've gotten physical work done, and I've gotten that few minutes of coffee with no one asking me for cereal or TV or anything else, or telling me why he doesn't need to go to school today. So it's nice. It makes the mornings easier and the whole day better.
That's powerful too, because the demands of our lives, all the different energy suckers that might be out there. And although we may love some of these energy suckers, like our children or our spouse or our coworkers and all these other folks, they are going to be demanding and taking of your time. And if we aren't equally as good at taking our own time, no one's going to give you the time for these activities. You have to take it and protect it, like it's your it's your fortress. And I think that is really powerful what you just said, is to try to carve out that time for you and then hold it sacred, and don't let people cross that boundary. Just a chat here that Megan said, thank you so much. She needed to hear this right now. She's been struggling with all this, and trying to let it go has been hard for her. And so she's really been touched by some of the things you guys have shared today. Okay. Well, if you guys didn't have other topics you wanted to bring into the discussion, well, I'll ask, any other things that you guys wanted to share as the panelists?
Final note, based off of what you said, we didn't touch on this quite so abruptly, but something that I have noticed with clients are the ones who kind of wear their stress as a badge of honor. And it's saying, here's the list of 78 things that I have going on. And I have, I have 4 kids, and they're awake at all these times, and there's this and there's that, and there's 8 jobs. I mean, you name it. And then it's like, how could I ever have time for anything? Or you want me to do 5 minutes of breath work? How can I do that? And the question that I think is really important is, well, do you have time not to do it? I mean, look at what you're doing right now. And is this working for you? And if you have to have, whatever your circumstances are, let's say you have to have 4 kids around you 24 hours a day, and you have 6 rescue cats and a hamster, and they all have to be in the room with you, and find a way to put on headphones for 5 minutes or sit with the kids and do 5 minutes of breath work together. There truly is always a solution, no matter how chaotic, hectic, however many things on your plate. There's going to be a way to integrate better habits. The question is just how, and what are you willing to do?
I love that so much. For one, it speaks right into me as a person, and for so long how I wore the badge of, look at me, I can I thrive in the chaos. Look how much I can carry. Look how much more work than I can do more. I can hold more and do more than anybody. And when that's created as an identity, which I know a lot of people who are like this, you better have some really good tools in order, if that's how you're going to live and that's your identity. Like, hey, do you, I'm good with it, I love you, I'm going to support you, but you better have some good tools to kind of balance that all out, or you're just going to crash and burn. And I crashed and burned enough to where I needed to just have a new identity, because I didn't want to be the guy who shouldered more than everybody else anymore, because it just wasn't serving, you know. So I love that you brought that into the conversation. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I feel like it's really important that maybe your relaxation or your time alone is not going to look like everyone else's, but there is a way to find something that works for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, there's not a one size fit all. You know, there's, and like I mentioned, there are probably a million different things that you could do. What's important, it doesn't matter which one you do. It's just find it, do it, and do it consistently. Consistency overcomes everything. So I think that's really powerful. All right. Anything else? Again, the audience, this is your chance to throw any question, anything that like stuck with you or that you wanted to learn more about for our panelists. I'd love to open this up to the audience. We have people in here listening right now, so I'll take a quick pause to just see if you guys want to drop something in the chat.
Donna Jean saying nice thing to us. Thank you, Donna Jean.
She's
Yeah,
the
thank you.
best. I'm just going to do the uncomfortable silence thing for a second, because this is like a new format for me. So I'd rather give it some breathing room and see if anyone says anything.
Okay, so on the topic of what I just said, an ending question that you can ask yourself is, what do I need right now that I have access to? Easy question to start with stress. So what do I need right now? Breath work. I have access to that all the time. How can I make that happen? What do I need right now to talk to someone? Okay, how can I do that? Do I have someone in the room? Do I need to call someone? What do I need to do? What do you need right now that you have access to?
Oh, that's powerful, because I think a lot of people will still, what do I need? And they'll think of things that aren't even available to them, and then then they feel more defeated, you know.
Yeah.
But the second part of that question is strong, that I have
Yeah.
access to. Okay, it looks like nobody's dropping anything in the chat. So you were so comprehensive, and you guys were so thorough that everybody, got all of their questions answered, which I'm so thrilled about. Just a bunch of thank yous in here. So that's amazing. And that's where I would like to end it, with just so much gratitude for the two of you all, taking the time, sharing your experiences, sharing your expertise. I learned on this, and I know that the live participants and the folks who see the recordings are also going to learn. And I'm just proud to know you all, and I'm so grateful that you guys are out here doing this work, and that you guys actively share and give of yourselves, so that this is a better world to live in. So thank you so much. Thank you for being experts on this panel. And I do have one question. How often are these panels? I'm going to be doing one so this is actually really good for me to say for the live participants. I'm going to be doing this is just a 3-part series. I'm kind of testing this out as a tool, something that we want to do. So for the next 2 Wednesdays now, this same exact time, we'll be doing a different topic. The next one is specifically around nutrition, how to fuel your life. And then the third one is about I forget the exact title, but essentially it's about how to stop people pleasing, how to draw good boundaries, and how to protect yourself so that you can, be fully actualized. So the next one is Wednesday at 5 p.m. Central Time. if you're in a different time zone. So, okay. Well, I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. I hope you have a good rest of your evening. And till next time, have a good night.
Thank you, Ethan.
Have a good one.